Well, it was a busy weekend for the U.S. president, mostly on Twitter. The tweets getting the most attention, the ones where Donald Trump denied he asked former FBI Director James Comey to stop investigating his ex-National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and attacked the FBI's reputation. And his tweet reading, quote, "I had to fire General Flynn because he lied to the vice president and the FBI. He has pled guilty to those lies. It is a shame because his actions during the transition were lawful. There was nothing to hide." Now, that one opening up questions about what the president knew and when. Joining me now to talk all about this weekend on Twitter is Republican strategist Evan Siegfried. Thanks so much for being here, Evan. We've got a lot to get to.
Oh, there's a lot to talk about.
Okay, so let's start with Michael Flynn pleading guilty this week. It's clear he's working with the FBI. So what can we expect in this upcoming week?
Well, we can't expect anything because if anything in this presidency has shown us, we can be starting the week talking about one thing and go on to another thing. Last week, we started the week with North Korea firing a ballistic missile that can reach the U.S., and we forgot about that by Friday with Michael Flynn. I think what we can see right now is President Trump's legal team trying to do two things. One, they're trying to build the case that a president of the United States cannot obstruct justice. I think that because it's never been constitutionally tested in the courts, it's going to be a very gray area, and there are going to be a lot of legal theorists making their argument for and against. Remember, Richard Nixon was impeached, or he was brought up on articles of impeachment. He was not impeached, pardon me, and part of them said that he obstructed justice. And the other thing the Trump team is trying to do is John Dowd, the president's lawyer, came out yesterday and said he authored the tweet from Saturday morning, which said Trump knew about Michael Flynn lying to the FBI and fired him because of that.
But yeah,
and the reason they're doing that.
I want to touch on that for a moment because it seems like with that tweet, a lot of people believe that Donald Trump got himself into hot water, perhaps opening up the possibility of an obstruction charge. And then the lawyer comes and says, no, I'm the one who wrote it. So you either have a really difficult client or a really incompetent lawyer.
Actually, it's the exact opposite. Well, no matter who wrote that tweet, what they're doing by John Dowd claiming this, that he was the author, is they're muddying the waters of all of the president's tweets. They're basically saying that while the president authors many of his tweets, it can be authored by somebody else. He has Dan Scavino, the White House director of social media, who has access to his account. John Dowd has access to the account. So if they're able to take all of these tweets, which could be used by Robert Mueller to prove intent, and say the president wasn't even the author of them, that takes away the possibility of those tweets of being used as intent for whatever he was seeking to do, or at least makes it a gray area, which they could argue the president didn't write that. It was somebody else, so clearly it's not his state of mind and doesn't explain his actions. At the same time, a lot of digital things in the U.S. courts have not been laid out in terms of legal precedent. We don't see tweets really being used in criminal cases against defendants, especially not against President of the United States. So they're trying to muddy the waters as much as possible to make it just as difficult as possible for anybody to lay out a clear case against the president and to make it as tough and hard a slog for Robert Mueller as possible.
Evan, it sounds, based on what you're saying, it sounds like they're making inroads. If that's their goal, it seems like they're getting there.
Yes. What they're trying to do is they're prepping in case there were ever articles of impeachment introduced against the president. If the president were impeached, it would be they would be ordering the indictment in the House of Representatives, and then it would go to the Senate to convict. And the Senate would have to convict by a 2/3 majority. And with Republicans having only 52 seats and Democrats having 48, Democrats would need to get several Republicans to come over to get to that 66-seat 2/3 majority. And remember, impeachment trials are not criminal trials. They are political trials. You could be impeached for sneezing in front of Justin Trudeau, theoretically. So the whole point of it is, if they can keep enough of the president's base and therefore the president's senators to stand by him and keep it at 65 senators or below who are saying we should impeach the president, then the president gets off and he will not be removed from office by the Congress.
Lastly, there's a few other tweets that I want to touch on. Over the weekend, the president tweeted about ABC News reporters, the investigation into Hillary Clinton. What are the goals with tweets like this?
Again, it's to muddy the waters and to keep as much of his base and Republican lawmakers on his side. If the Republican base stands by the president and doesn't believe that the Mueller investigation is legitimate and believes it's a witch hunt, then they're going to put pressure on any Republican lawmaker who believes that it actually is valid and will keep them from speaking up. At the same time, it's undermining confidence in the FBI. We saw that it came out that over the summer, Robert Mueller removed an FBI agent who was investigating Donald Trump because he had private texts with a friend or colleague that said that Donald Trump was not the best president out there. I think that's paraphrasing a bit. But they're using that and saying, see, it's proof of an anti-Trump bias at the FBI. If anything, it's proof that Robert Mueller is trying to have an investigation that is above board. He found out that somebody said something even remotely negative about the president and said that will not fly. We need to be 100% objective so that most people can believe in the integrity of the investigation.
Evan Siegfried, thanks for joining us this morning. We always appreciate your take.
Thank you for having me.